October 8th, 1871. A date forever etched in the history of devastation. While the world's attention was fixed on the Great Chicago Fire, a much deadlier inferno raged to the north in Peshtigo, Wisconsin. The Peshtigo Fire, a conflagration of unimaginable scale, swept through Wisconsin. This fire would claim more than 1,500 lives, making it the deadliest in U.S. history. Yet this catastrophic event remains largely unknown, overshadowed by the Great Chicago Fire. The Chicago Fire, though tragic, occurred in a burgeoning metropolis. Newspapers quickly spread the story of Mrs. O'Leary's cow and the city's demise. Peshtigo, however, was a remote lumber town, far from the national spotlight. Its story, though equally harrowing, struggled to reach the wider world. The contrast in media coverage contributed to the Peshtigo Fire's obscurity. Chicago's tragedy dominated headlines, capturing the nation's attention. Peshtigo's plight, meanwhile, remained largely untold. This disparity in coverage cemented the Chicago Fire in public memory, leaving Peshtigo's Inferno in relative obscurity. Today we uncover the tragedy of the Peshtigo Fire. Nestled amidst the vast forests of Wisconsin, Peshtigo was a thriving logging town in the late 19th century, surrounded by dense pine forests. Logging was the town's lifeblood. The industry fueled its economy, shaping its identity. However, this prosperity also left behind a dangerous legacy: piles of dry, flammable debris. The very resource that sustained Peshtigo would also seal its fate. The summer of 1871 had been relentlessly hot and dry. Wisconsin's forests, normally lush and damp, were transformed into tinderboxes. The air hung heavy with the smell of pine needles, brittle and ready to ignite. A spark, a carelessly discarded match, was all it would take to unleash the disaster. Unbeknownst to the residents of Peshtigo, a cold front was sweeping in from the west. The winds, dry and fierce, whipped through the parched landscape. These winds, exceeding hurricane force, would become the catalyst for the Inferno, turning a manageable fire into an unstoppable force of nature, creating a perfect storm for disaster. As the sun began its descent on October 8, 1871, a sense of unease settled over Peshtigo. The wind, hot and dry, howled through the trees, carrying with it the scent of distant smoke. Little did the townspeople know that a firestorm of unimaginable fury was about to engulf their world. The firestorm's exact origins remain shrouded in mystery. Some speculate that it started as a controlled burn, escaping its bounds in the fierce winds. Others believe that a spark from a passing train ignited the dry underbrush. The fire, fueled by the drought-stricken landscape and propelled by the relentless winds, quickly grew into a raging inferno. It tore through the countryside, consuming everything in its path. The firestorm, an unstoppable force of nature, advanced with astonishing speed. Residents of Peshtigo had little time to react. The fire, driven by hurricane-force winds, swept through the town with terrifying speed. Families were torn apart as they desperately tried to outrun the flames. Many sought refuge in the Peshtigo River, only to succumb to the searing heat and smoke inhalation. So why have so few heard of this tragedy? The Peshtigo Fire occurred on the same day as the Great Chicago Fire. Chicago, being a major city, captured the headlines. Meanwhile, news of the disaster in the remote logging town of Peshtigo took longer to reach the outside world. Despite the scale of the disaster, Peshtigo's survivors rebuilt their lives. Today, a small museum and memorial cemetery honor those who perished, ensuring that their story is not completely forgotten. The Peshtigo Fire is a sobering reminder of nature's power and the dangers of human negligence. It's a story of immense loss, but also of resilience and the determination to rise from the ashes. Let us remember the lives lost on that tragic night and ensure that their stories are never forgotten. Subscribe for more untold stories of history.